Well, now it's time for a review of what's making the headlines in the papers this morning with Dr. Constance Ikwoku. Good morning, Dr. Constance.
Hey,
Good to see you.
Benga.
Ever dependable oracle of the headlines.
These two musketeers.
Do you have a new name for today, Benga?
Oh, you just heard me.
Oh, you didn't? You guys didn't hear me. These two
We
musketeers that terrorizing daybreak. Good morning, both of you.
Good morning. Always a delight.
How are you today?
We're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're fine.
Always
thank
a
you.
delight indeed. Very early morning. Good to be with you guys this morning. All right, if you're just joining us, hello there and welcome to the program. We'll be kicking off the newspaper review with this day newspaper. This morning, blackouts and power grid issues feature prominently in several papers. Coverage continues around political positioning ahead of the 2027 elections. Recurrent insecurity, abductions, and calls for stronger strategies are reported in the papers. Legal and governance news and proposed judicial changes, among others. Now, this day front page opens with an area that has perennially faced challenge in Nigeria, the power sector. The piece reflects on the 501 billion naira bond for generating companies, which is 100% oversubscribed. Minister Wale Edun describes these developments as confidence in the sector. In Turkey, Erdogan and his government targeting $5 billion trade with Nigeria as it promises to help fight terrorism in the country. And in 5 years, World Bank has committed $2.5 billion into Nigeria's education and health sectors. Daily Independent leads with opposition figures, including Atiku, Arebeshola, Mark, describing the current government as the worst in decades. Sergei Okoria are criticizing Governor Soludo for closing Onitsha main market. And resume work or face sanctions, Wike tells striking FCT workers. New Telegraph turns attention to the collapse of the national grid, with Lagos Chamber of Commerce calling it an economic emergency. The National Human Rights Commission says it received a whopping 3.7 million human rights violations complaints in 2025. And Leadership newspaper opens with Desiani's legal battle in the UK. According to the UK prosecutor, she received £100,000 bribe. Kwankwaso begins restructuring of Kwankwasia movement following Governor Abba Yusuf's exit. And federal government raises 501 billion bond, we've seen that. Vanguard reflects on the disagreement between federal government, northern leaders and lawyers over amnesty for terrorists. Despite fall in Ankara, Tinubu is in great shape, the presidency claims. And more on insecurity. Bandits kill 2, abduct over 50 women in Katsina community. On politics, APC leaders receive Mufti and offer him automatic ticket for 2027. Daily Sun reports that the court has rejected Nnamdi Kanu's transfer from Sokoto prison, and the president has asked the Senate to approve 40 more Court of Appeal justices and 20 for High Court. The Punch investigation revealed that the clandestine network of military officers, coordinated by an army colonel, the name has been withheld, they had planned the military coup with funding, recruitment, and operational planning traced directly to this colonel. Moving on to the international headlines, beginning with Daily Mirror. So papers like Daily Mirror and newspaper highlight Chancellor Rachel Reeves' move to cut business rates for pubs and music venues by 15% from April. This is aimed at protecting community hubs, though restaurants and cafes are excluded, and many warn it may not go far enough to stop closures. The Independent leads with a new initiative by the charity Missing People called Safe Call, which is a lifeline service aimed at helping the 72,000 children who go missing each year in the UK. What a stunning number of missing children in that country. In Daily Express, the government's returns deal with France is questioned after data shows more migrants have arrived than have been removed under this policy. Financial Times leads with U.S. security assurances for Ukraine tied to territorial concessions, raising diplomatic concerns. The UK and allies emphasize sovereignty and oppose rewarding coercion. The Guardian front page focuses on international human rights reporting. Doctors say the death toll from Iran's crackdown on dissent could be concealed at over 30,000, with hospitals pressured not to record trauma cases. The Times highlights fake jobs that are on sale to cheat the system and gain migrant visas, while Daily Telegraph quotes Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer as claiming the UK will be safer and richer with China's help. Now let's break down what the stories mean for everyday citizens. This day, there we have Turkey saying that it's targeting $5 billion in trade with Nigeria. President Bola Tinubu is currently in Ankara for talks on energy, trade, security, defense, and aviation cooperation. Both presidents are working on areas of mutual interest. We know that 9 bilateral agreements have already been signed. Benga, what do you reckon is the weight of this rapprochement with Turkey?
I think defying the fallen misadventure or the misstep misadventure.
We'll talk about the misstep later.
We'll come back
Let's
to
focus
that,
on the
but,
substance
I think
first.
this is a significant boost for Tinubu's shuttle diplomacy, if you ask me, because Turkey holds a very strategic placement in international politics. Its placement between as a link between Europe and Asia,
yes.
Central Asia has placed him as an economic, well, we can say a medium-sized economic powerhouse in Euro-Asia geopolitics, and its control of the Dardanelles and the Bosporus had also made him an economic merchant of the Black Sea. So now both medium-sized economy coming together, there's a lot to benefit, and also in the area of defense, with Nigeria faces an existential threat. I think Turkey's partnership, who has also registered itself as a force to be reckoned with in the international world. I think that this is a very significant move.
Yeah,
very significant indeed. Yeah. Turkey's collaboration with Nigeria didn't start today. We also have to remember that there's always been a long-standing relationship between firms in Turkey, firms from Turkey in Nigeria. So this is good to see that this collaboration is now expanding into more critical areas, critical sectors such as military and defense, which is what Nigeria needs at the moment. So now Turkey actually, saying that they're going to stand with Nigeria, especially with this fight against terrorism, leaves a lot of people very hopeful of what the future holds.
All right, staying with this, the federal government's 501 billion naira bond for generating companies is 100% oversubscribed. Yolanda, Minister Wale Edun describes this development as confidence in this sector.
It's difficult to talk about confidence, especially in these past days when we've had these national grid shutdowns. We've had 2 already since the year has begun, and we haven't even finished the first month of the year. So it's very hard to see these projected and, targeted, hopeful assertions. But, I don't know what to say anymore on this, because it's very difficult to have hope in this sector. Last year, we had over 12 breakdowns of the national grid. What more can we expect? We've been having these talks about refining the sector in different ways, bringing in new technology, but it seems to just end on people's lips.
When he talks about oversubscription and signaling confidence, on the one hand, he's right, because it shows that investors, whether it's the banks, pension funds, and offshore players, believe that the issuer, which is the federal government in this case, can repay, and that the pricing is attractive for them to invest in. But it also means government is borrowing more, and Nigerians still have to ask how these funds will be used and whether the returns justify the debt. And we know that there's so much debt in the power sector.
Indeed.
Minister of Power, Mr. Delabu, yes, a lot of people say that it doesn't have a hang of that power sector, right, and it hasn't done a great job of sort of managing the controversies, the debt, the difficulties in that sector in order to move Nigeria from a paltry 4,000, 5,000 megawatts. Other countries within the African continent are doing 40,000, 50,000.
Right.
We talk about South Africa, Egypt, and the rest of
Ethiopia.
them, and we're still stuck here. So more investors are chasing bonds because equities are volatile and the naira remains uncertain. So oversubscription can say as much as about fear elsewhere in the economy as much as confidence in the bond itself.
I think it underscores the fact that we are running a black market economy where we cannot put things at the figure and match it with reality. It's always a conflicting reality. And I think that coming back to the power sector, which you rightly highlighted, there was a performance bond signed for this minister. What is the essence of this? Because this is an abysmal failure. It's an obvious failure that the federal government has failed to power the economy. It's a huge setback, if you ask me.
Right. Vanguard newspaper, despite fall, Tinubu is in great shape, the presidency claims. There was a somewhat minor accident or incident where the president stumbled during the opening ceremony in Ankara, but quickly regained his balance and continued with official engagements. The presidency sought to explain away that incident, blaming it on an uneven carpet and not a health issue. That momentary misstep did not stop the diplomatic program from going forward. But Benga, why do brief physical moments such as this, involving leaders, attract so much attention, especially in a country like Nigeria?
Okay, first, it seems an international phenomenon. We saw when former president of U.S., Joe Biden, also slipped when he was climbing the staircase. But I was a bit apprehensive when I saw someone so closely knitted to the president when he was alighting on his way from when he was landing in Ankara just a few days ago. So I was like, this is not a good signal entirely. So, but I think that the way the presidency has managed it, again, they fell into that conflicting narrative of managing information, because the first approach was a denial. Later, Daniel Buala tried to manage the situation, saying that did not disrupt the flow of activities. But again, it raises concern about the state of fitness of Nigeria's president.
And I think very quickly, I just wanted to say that presidential presence in any event will always be highly scrutinized. You have people looking at the outfits that they wore, the way that they spoke, the way that they talked. So seeing these diplomatic faux pas, so to speak, is something that's very prevalent. Look at Davos that we just had now in Switzerland a few days ago. President Trump was also, heavy speculation about the bruises that he had on his left hand, and many others, the swelling of his legs, his ankles. Presidents are always susceptible to these kind of speculations, especially in these type of events.
I mean, he did look a little bit frail, and if you had watched that ceremony, his gait was not that stable. In fact, the president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, helped him down the stairs at the beginning of that long walk to inspect the formal guard of honor. And after he fell, Erdogan held his hands.
That's true.
And helped him into the meeting room. In fact, he was really, really warm to our president, treated his guests really well and with kindness. Both men are advanced in age. Erdogan 71. We have President Bola Tinubu 73. But a couple of things to draw from this. Speculations, given Nigeria's history of secrecy surrounding a leader's health. We've had this before with the late President Muhammadu Buhari, who was away in London for extended periods of time because of ill health. Never really knew what was the problem. We also had it during President Umar Musa Yar'Adua, who actually died abroad, I think in Saudi Arabia. And for months on end, people did not know whether they still had a president, whether he was still alive. At the end of the day, he was brought back in a coffin. And even because he did not hand over power to the vice president, there was a huge controversy leading the National Assembly, led by Senator David Magden, to now use wisdom to use that, what do they call it? Forgotten what it was called. Doctrine of necessity, to invite the vice president, Goodluck Jonathan, to take the position of the presidency. So this is partly why there's so much attention and scrutiny on the president or a president's health in Nigeria. So the biggest crisis here is whether there should be transparency about the health of a president, whether there should be full disclosure, especially when they travel quite often abroad in order to take care of their health. So the answer is that building that confidence about the president's health has not been done in Nigeria, and definitely it should be a change. Daily Independent this morning, court asked FCTA workers to return to work as the minister threatens sanctions for failure to do so. The court ruled that once a labor dispute is referred to it, ongoing strikes must be suspended pending a legal determination. Minister Nyesom Wike has warned that anyone who defies the court order will face disciplinary measures. What assurances are there that once workers return, negotiations won't stall again, leaving grievances unresolved until the next strike? That's always the case.
And that is the big question, and will remain that way. You know, additionally to that, all you have said, Dr. Constance, Wike also said that blackmail and intimidation will not achieve the results that they want. So I guess in a way, this push and pull is really, you know, just saying that, yes, we are discussing with you, but the way that you have acted in these past days is not going to fly. We all saw the chaos that ensued over the past few days, you know, with workers who were even chasing after Wike's vehicle and all of that. And, you know, it really caused such a commotion. And we need to remember why this strike even began in the first place, you know, unpaid wages and all these welfare issues. So rightly said, Dr. Constance, will these, you know, negotiations and will this court being adjourned into March really bring a conclusion that is substantial and give the results that these workers need?
You know, when you mentioned the minister being chased, that was a terrible sight. He
Absolutely.
wanted to escape the office through the back gate, and yes, the workers chased after him.
They weren't having it.
I mean, that's not what you want to see, but Minister Nyesom Wike has used the usual tool that he's conversant with, which is the courts.
The strong hand
as a politician,
courts, yes.
Using the courts, you know, to gain the upper hand and to cripple the opposition, and that's essentially what he's doing here. They always say go to court, and when you go to court, they know that the judiciary is also challenged in terms of integrity. So whoever is the highest, the bidder can pay for it. So as a court, you know, is expected, you know, it has said that the rule of law and process will win over protest. We know that. So the ruling simply reinforces the right to industrial action isn't absolute. It means that there are legal frameworks that must guide strikes and negotiations, and that's what the court is essentially saying. It also shifts the focus from street protests to negotiations and adjudication. That wasn't what they wanted before. They really wanted to be out there picketing, you know, the offices and stopping work and making sure that nobody goes into the office. The court has now said with immediate effect, you have to resume work. So the key question now is whether returning to work will be matched with genuine negotiations. Is the minister ready for genuine negotiations to meet them halfway in terms of the demands that they are making on the ministry, or are they going to be asked to simply get over their grievances?
I think there is need for sincerity in these negotiations, because the FCT minister saying that they don't need to meet him personally, it's marks of high-handedness, and I think that should not be the approach in settling this kind of crucial issue. The FCT administration holds a very strategic responsibility in the running of the FCT. So I think that he should personally lead the negotiation and show them that is welcome to that talk in addressing the grievances of this the joint union of the Joint Union Action Committee.
On the international scene, International Criminal Court judge rules that former Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte fit for pre-trial hearing following a medical assessment of independent experts. The claim by his lawyers that he's suffering from cognitive impairment was denied. Confirmation of charges set for February 23. Duterte had been detained at The Hague since March last year after the ICC ordered his arrest for crimes committed during his anti-drugs campaign as president in the Philippines. He was president from June 2016 to 2022. When you look at this story, do you think, Yolanda, that this ruling strengthens the ICC's credibility or risks deepening resistance from countries that are already skeptical of the intention of justice of the system?
I think it really does deepen the confusion that is going around globally, because who gets to make these major decisions? Because the ICC cannot act independently. It needs the help of, other bodies to be able to, especially in this case, to bring Duterte to book. So it's very sad because a lot of Filipinos do not agree with what is going on. They see this war on drugs as something that was actually bringing safety, was bringing, justice to their people in terms of how everything had gone haywire in terms of drug usage in the country, to show you even how bad it is. Even just going to the Philippines, getting their stamp on your passport, it even says that this is a crime where, if you're caught with drugs, you will be hanged. And so that just goes to show you that at that level, this is such an injustice to the people of the Philippines. But the ICC sees it very differently. And the question for me is that, where do we cross the line? Where do we draw the line in the sand? What people believe is best for their country, or what the world police believe is best for a certain country? We see this with Venezuela as well.
Okay. I think it's aptly put by you. Sincerely speaking, while I do not support killing without trial, that's extrajudicial, but I think there's a strong air of international conspiracy and international hypocrisy when it comes to the ICC. The U.S. is not a signatory to the ICC. The U.S. has a pact that the Hague recognized in 2002, which is called the Hague Invasion Act, and the America Service Member Protection Act, which is enshrined in the Hague Statute, which says that the U.S. reserves the right to invade the Hague in a situation where any American is arraigned. This is clearly written in the statute, and it smacks of hypocrisy.
See, two things here. Nobody forces you to be part of the Hague. The signatory to the Hague is not by force. The U.S. decides not to be a part of it, that's fine. If your country wants to withdraw, you withdraw. It's not compulsory. It's just that most African countries just sign up to whatever they are asked to sign up.
Doesn't that show disregard for the rule of law?
Let me land.
Okay.
No, it is not compulsory. You decide to sign, and that's your cup of tea. And the second thing is that, yes, it's the ICC. However, many families of those who were extrajudicially killed in Philippines are also seeking justice. It is true there is a drug problem in the country. Yes. However, the process and way he went about that, killing people without due process, a lot of families felt that was not right. So those families also are the ones that went to the Hague saying this president needs to be tried, and we have to open the book and look again into what he did while he was president. And secondly, looking at Duterte at the ICC, he's 80 years old.
Right.
And he already looked frail, and that was the first thing, the first thing that you noticed.
He looks
However,
very
the
sick.
the ICC says it doesn't matter your age. The message here is that it does not matter your age. The law will prevail over whether you have cognitive impairment or not, and it will go on. So that's what is happening with the ICC. Secondly, is also reverting to see someone who was at the height of his country as president. It looks like this is a fall. Now he has to answer to everything that he did when he was in power. He was an all-powerful man. He does have supporters equally as much as those people that also did not like his guts as president. So it is what it is. Finally, the ruling is a big deal because it is for victims who say that they want to have an opportunity to defend their families, for whoever is involved to be brought to book. So it is a big deal for human rights advocates who are supporters of the International Criminal Court. Whether you like the court or not, it is there. And if your country is a signatory, well, that means anybody can be brought to the ICC to be tried. Well, those were your headlines for today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Constance and Benga Ashiru. You're watching Daybreak.